Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Running Your Best Life. I'm Victor, your host, and I'm here with the always insightful, always energetic Adele.
Hey everyone, I hope everybody's doing great this week. We've got lots of wonderful things to say. I'm excited to be here, especially for today's episode. It's one of a lot of runners over 40, like myself, are going to want to hear about. Great topics coming.
Yes, because let's face it, once you hit the 4-0 mark, your body starts to change. What worked, what worked for us in our 20s doesn't necessarily work for us in our 40s. But here's the good news.
You could still run strong, fast, and injury free if you train smart. And that's what we're diving into today.
So whether you're a weekend warrior, a long distance lifer, or just getting back into running after a break, today's episode is for you.
We're going to cover 10 things that runners over 40 should absolutely be doing in their training. These are some habits that keep you injury free, keep you energized, and performing at your peak for years to come.
All right, let's stretch out and
All
get it
right, I'm ready. Woo!
started. So, number one on the list is prioritizing recovery.
Yes, yes. I think it's key. And I know we might be starting from the back going in, but the recovery is huge.
Yes, because I know that myself, I need it. I need the recovery. I notice that in my body that my body does not bounce back from a marathon or from some of the races as it used to do with everything, not just with the workouts, but even, I talked to you about my drinking beers before and uh, being able to, when I was young, I could drink 4 or 5 beers and the next day still go out on a run and be fine. Well, I can't get away with that now. Even 1 or 2 beers, I don't have the energy the next day to do the workout. And I think
Well,
it's
I
the
think Yeah, I think too, the beer can tend to dehydrate you in your way because, like coffee and beer, you only rent them. They go right through you. So you have to remember that that is eliminating some of your hydration base too when you drink that. It's a great, I'm not a beer drinker, y'all know that. But it's a great hydration right after a run or right after a workout or right after a fitness event of any kind. But you got to remember too, once you got to get the other stuff in your system too. Get that good hydration and it's going to stay with you, not just rent itself out.
yes. And if I can add to that, because you mentioned hydration, because
Mhm.
that would be part of the recovery. You have to hydrate while you're working out, but also as part of your recovery is making sure you're drinking a lot of water. The other thing that happens, I noticed, and I don't know if it's after 40 or 50, but what I did notice is that the thirst signals
Mhm.
seem to go away. And I think it's because we've endured so much that we like to push harder and harder that our bodies can go without, you can tell your body you're okay. You can
Right.
keep pushing and then you forget what to drink water. You forget what thirst feels like because you miss that signal, I'm thirsty.
I'll tell you very honestly, y'all, and Victor and I have discussed this, but there is a key point that I've realized over the last few years. I'm 67. I've been doing endurance events and endurance athlete really since my late 20s, right? I have noticed that my energy kicks in at another level after an hour, after 60 minutes. And the reason I'm bringing that to your attention is for any kind of endurance athlete of whatever sport or training that you use, we tend to get that energy kick knowing our body's going to be out there doing something for maybe 2, 3, 4 hours. We're accustomed to that, we're conditioned to that. That's when we tend not to remember to hydrate or take our nutrition because we've got that energy buzz again, right? And Victor, I think you mentioned this to me as well. When you feel like you have that peak energy, that's when you probably need to get that hydration in within the next couple of minutes so you don't crash. Get one of your energy gels or whatever you use for nutrition. keep it on a pattern when you're doing 2, 3, 4 hour workouts. Don't let that endurance energy get to you and forget, because then you're going to be weaker in that second part of your event. And that's huge. I noticed it. I'm swimming for an hour. I mean, I'm ready to kick it in again. I'm biking for an hour. I'm ready to hit those speed intervals. I'm running, walking for an hour. Man, I'm going faster in that part of my workout. So please, y'all remember that. It's very, 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 very important.
Yeah, and I have even on my notes right here to not to do more than 2 or 3 days in a row of hard workouts. You want
Right.
to you want to have those recoveries in between. And for me, like for example, the track workouts, I now for sure do not want to do more than once a week.
No,
Mhm.
no. Do you use the swimming when you're doing your swim practices? I use my swimming a lot as a recovery day where I'm not on an impact. I'm not in a crouch position on the bike. I'm not doing my weight training. Do you tend to use some of your swim workouts as a recovery? Because it's so good for your body to be in the water.
Yes, for the most part, unless the when I go to the swim meets and the
Mhm.
coach has a certain workouts that are
Okay.
push us a little bit more, we may do some hard workouts. But I prefer, like you said, to use them as recovery
Right.
because in the competitions, the swim part should be very light. You should come out of the water without feeling tired. It should
Hmm.
be like a little bath. It should
Right.
feel nice, like a relaxation. Because I have pushed it before in one of the races,
Okay.
and you end up paying the price on the bike and the run. So it's
Right.
not worth to push harder. But if you want to improve your swim times, you kind of have to do a little bit of some hard efforts in the water. But for the
Mhm.
most part, I do it light and just work on streamlining, work on my balance, work on things that don't take as much effort.
And that's really key because I cycled 30 miles at a pretty consistent pace on Saturday, and then did a long 6.5 mile hike on Sunday. But on Monday, which was Memorial Day, I did a brisk 4 mile walk, and then we did a modified Murph, which is one of the military workouts in honor of our military and veterans, and to memorialize those. So we do it at my son's gym. So I knew it was going to be kind of tough on me. But what I did on Tuesday, yesterday, I got in the water and I said, I'm going to swim about an hour, hour and a half, easy, freestyle backstroke, do some kicking. But at that hour mark, I had some energy. So I was just doing like easy 25 free. And then I do one that I push myself because I wanted that a little bit of a higher intensity and then backed off, only did like 10 of them and then just really took it in. So it was really more of a recovery swim based on 3 days of kind of impact stuff. And it made a huge difference. So y'all, that's just one example for me, which you're listening to Victor as well. He may have to do some of his training sprints or training intervals in the water, but he's going to allow himself some recovery time too. And that's key to recovering, let the body recover. One of the other things too, I don't want to forget to mention as we want to move through a couple of topics, is remember that your sleep is vital in your recovery. It's vital, y'all. And try to get some good solid sleep hours. A lot of us tend to be keyed up or doing something late in the evening where our bodies and mind are not relaxing. And I think, Victor, you've had some things that you've tried to do to make your body, your mind, your visuals kind
Yes.
of calm down, right?
I love meditation. I always do meditation, whether it's on YouTube, look it up on YouTube where you find guided meditation.
Mhm.
On Spotify, they have some as well. It helps a great deal if you're having trouble sleeping, or if you're just like, I want to go to sleep right away. Like, I don't want to lay down an hour before I actually fall asleep.
Right,
That's
right.
when the calming down and going to sleep is great. And one important thing to mention is that our fitness actually happens when you are in your most state of recovery. When you are getting those sleep, that's exactly when the fitness
Right.
kicks in. It's not when you're doing the workout, it's at the recovery. And the better your quality of recovery, the better you're going to perform.
Well, and I think that's a key point too, because what you want to do is get the mind and the body and everything to calm down during recovery. Y'all got to remember your metabolism is still working efficiently at when you're resting. Your nutrition is keeping the body and your hydration is keeping the body in a restful state, but it's also helping your body, muscles, tissues, everything recover so that when you stress them again, you have that base of I'm strong, I've rested, I can pick it up and I can go. So please remember that sleep and rest is important. Try to turn screens off. Try not to have touch or visuals on phones or even the TV. If you really want to read something, read it with a book or something that's not all stimulation, like Kindles and things like that. You have touch, you have visuals, you have lights. Try to calm everything down as best you can, like Victor is saying, and eventually your body will learn that pattern and you'll fall asleep and rest, deep. You'll get that REM sleep that you're going to need to pick up and go and be active the next day. So remember that, y'all.
The next one is strength training, weekly strength training, but especially in the build phase is when you
Yes.
can do a lot more of your uh, strength training, weight training. What are your favorite ones, Adele, for strength training for runners?
Okay, so some of my favorite ones is when we do some stuff at the gym, I kind of modify it to what I'm working on, right? So being over 40, being a high impact history on my body, especially the knees and hips, ankles. Um, what I like to do is I like squats. I'll do a lot of air squats or I'll hold a small weight, anything from 10 to 15 pounds if I'm going to do a weight workout, do the squats. I like the lunges as well, side lunges as well as forward and back lunges. You can use a little weight or just use your body weight, body weight. Those are awesome for moving all of the muscles in your leg. A couple other things I like are the hip bridges because you're pulling your glutes in. If y'all know what I'm talking about, you're actually laying down and you're lifting your pelvic area. Knees are bent. You're lifting your pelvic area up, squeezing basically your glutes and your hamstrings, and you're and relaxing. Squeeze and relax. What you're doing is you're building some momentum there, but it also it releases the tension. So everything seems to start working in a relaxed state. Once you stop that hip bridge motion, you want to get up and kind of move your body a little bit as well. Those are two that I love for runners, as well as any of the piriformis stretches where you can move your hips and move your body, do your hip flexors. Those are some key, and then I don't do those with weights. Those are more stretching or post workout. But those are some of the ones I like the best. And then any of the leg lifts, flutters, leg your scissor kicks, and then anything that you're going to lift up where you're moving you're holding your core and you're coming down. So you're using the body, you're using the glutes, you're using the strength in the legs up and down. I like those.
Yes, I think you touched on most of the what's needed when it comes to strength training. If you have a personal trainer that you can go, that's awesome. But if you don't, and if you are short in time, don't use that as an excuse to not do strength training. Because I tended to do that when I had a tight schedule, and it's like, well, I don't have time to go to the gym, so I'm going to skip the strength training and go straight to my workout. But the truth of it is, especially if you use the ones you mentioned where you're just using your weight right before you go on your run, you can do a bunch of push-ups or squats or the abdominal muscles. And
Right.
that's what I started to do. And it made a huge difference in preventing injuries
Mhm.
and running stronger. What I would just do is as I getting ready to go on a run, maybe I'm watching a YouTube video or whatever, I would turn on the TV, get my coffee, and as I'm watching those videos, I'm also doing my exercises right before. And it only takes 30 minutes, and then boom,
Mhm.
you're out the door doing your workout. It makes such a huge difference.
I think two things on strength training that, and we can touch on this a little bit more in depth in a future episode. But the RDLs, we mentioned the RDLs, which is basically any of the little deadlift type movements, any of your rowing movements as well, if you're going to do that. But I think the biggest key, your triangles, is another one that I love to do because it just kind of moves everything, without a lot of weight on it, but it moves it and I get the flexibility. Y'all, remember with age comes a bone density issue. Strength training with weights, even minimal pounds, will keep your bone density at a level higher, which is where you want it, than if you didn't do any strength training. If you can give 15 minutes twice a week, that's great. If you can give 30 minutes twice a week with your flexibility, or if it's post run, bike, swim, what you need to do is incorporate that in to keep your body mass, muscle mass, lean muscle, and bone density at a level where you can enjoy what you want to do without having injury. And that's a key point to being injury free. So remember that.
Absolutely. And our next one is warming up before the run and having a cool down and stretching. So the studies have shown that there's not as much benefit to stretching before you go on a run. What you
Mm,
can do, what the studies have shown is that it's better to do dynamic stretches
right.
where you're actually moving as you're warming up your muscles. Having that dynamic movement is much more beneficial. But then definitely a cool down, especially when you're doing track, because you are doing those explosive and hard and you're racing your heart rate. So having that time to cool down and then move into doing the stretches right after that is very beneficial when the scar tissue hasn't built up yet. There's still a lot of elasticity on the muscles and get them stretched, and that's going to prevent injuries as well.
I think one of the other important points that we should make with your warm up and cool down, it depends on what works for you. Personally, if I'm going to do a cardio workout like a run, bike, swim, walk, whatever it is I'm going to do, my weights or strength training are done later in the day. My body operates most efficiently if I do my cardio early. I'm not doing the strength training right away unless I'm going to do a workout and a group workout and doing something at the gym. I have a little time in between. So find out what works best for you. But the other part of that with the stretch and the dynamic warm up and static cool down, find out what gets your muscles moving. Your breathing has to be adapting as well. And I think that's a key point. I love to skip. Let's go skip. All you got to do is it's just like being a kid. If you skip, your body, your cardio, everything starts to move a little bit more energized. That's a great thing. If you're going to stretch, make sure you're stretching your upper body as well. Because when you're running, biking, or swimming, you're using a lot of core muscles. You're also using your shoulders. When you're running, you want that fluid motion with your arms hanging down at your side. Always stretch the whole body, not just the bottom half. And you can do that in a minimal way. I do it doing housework and doing things around the house and then getting out, maybe walking a little bit, and getting my breath down. So those are key points to remember, as simple as you can. But also remember, there's got to be something that you don't just put on your shoes. But wake up, drink some water, put on your shoes, and go. Your body needs to wake up as well, just like your brain, just like the brain.
Absolutely. Great, great tips. Now, our next one is improving your running form,
Mm.
especially for us who are over 40 years old. And because I noticed that when I did when I'm doing the series of the 50 states,
Right.
and you notice a lot of people have been doing this for a long time. And if they're not paying attention to their form, they can start really building some really bad habits. Mm.
Have you ever had issues with your muscles or injuries where you start to drag a foot when you're running, or your back gets really, tight, say if you're cycling or swimming? Yeah.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
and doing a lot of compensating. So I've
Okay.
had pain in the sciatica, and all of a sudden you are using your left side much more because you're compensating for the right side. And what I've noticed that is very beneficial to me is when I'm counting my cadence as I'm running,
Mhm.
I'm focusing on one side or another. So I'm
Okay.
switching. back and forth, either coming with the left foot or I'm coming with the right foot. But especially for most of us, we're dominant on one side, so we
Right.
tend
Right.
to automatically use those muscles more. And then when we need the other muscle needs to kick in, it's not as strong and it's not going to sustain. So switching up the focus on where is your energy coming from, where are you putting most stress, and then switching it up. And notice, either have somebody record you running,
Right.
or notice, I like to use the shadow too to
Yeah.
see if my body's doing anything funny, because when you're tired, you don't notice that you're doing something significantly different, like leaning forward, bending down. Some people go to the side quite
Right.
a bit.
Right. 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 I
And
think
then,
everybody has their fatigue
yeah,
position, as I call it. And
exactly.
yeah. Have you ever been like using a chiropractor or somebody in the orthopedic field that says you're just not straight, your hips are out of alignment, use this, or one leg is a little bit shorter, which is not uncommon at all, y'all. It's not uncommon to have one leg a little bit shorter. And with runners and athletes, excuse me, of all kinds, that's when you probably need a little bit of assistance, either something in that shoe, like a, excuse me, a little orthotic, or something that builds it up, even if it's like a little heel cushion or an extra shoe cushion. If you can be as even as possible as you're taking your gait, remember your body weight is hitting that foot. Excuse me. Um, let's just say 7 times the impact, right? Every time you strike. So you want to make sure you're cushioned, but also too, I had an issue with the left leg being a little bit shorter than the right leg, and I would drag the left leg. And when you're running marathons and training for marathons, that drag, my fatigue muscle was in the bottom glute on the left side. It would intensify that sciatic. I had to really learn to train that left leg to pick up, and I would put a little extra cushion in that left shoe until I could start to really become intuitive to pull that leg and be even with my right leg. So y'all remember that there's always resources out there to determine if there's a little bit of skeletal, muscular, or any kind of imbalance. Make sure that you can attend to it, because if you do, your running life will be much better. And as you do get older, all of those things become intuitive and you know how to modify them accordingly when you're running over 40, over 50, over 60, so that you can still enjoy what you're doing. So I wanted to make that point clear because I experienced it myself years ago in the years that I was training for my first few marathons. And it made a big, big difference to understand that.
Yeah. And the other one is vertical isolation. So that's the amount of distance you're covering up and down. You should try to keep that to a minimum. And one of the tricks that I've used, again, is the shadow. When you're running and you're using your shadow, you can see your vertical isolation, especially on a race, because then you can compare yourself to other people. And if your head is bobbing up and down a lot, you should, yeah,
Right.
that's energy that is not moving you forward, and it's only going up and down, and it's not efficient, and you're putting more pressure on the legs when you're striking the floor.
Also, remember too, when you're running, y'all, where you hold your shoulders, whatever your natural gait is, your arms are not going to be tight at your side, right? You don't want to clench those fists. You don't want to hold your tight shoulders and tight arms. You want to be relaxed. So always look at that, because when we fatigue, those things start to roll over. You're putting strain on your neck. Your head starts to look down rather than looking forward as much. Just remember those things. Watch yourself as you're in your training and in your training runs, because if it starts to happen, catch yourself, walk a couple of minutes, slow down, walk a couple of minutes, take that breather that you need, and get your form back so that you don't cause some tension that can potentially cause you to have an injury down the road if it continues to happen. So keep that in mind as well.
Okay, and our next one is cross training.
Ah,
And that's one of my favorites, because that's why I became a triathlete. That's when I saw the major improvements in my running, is when I started doing the cross training with swimming and biking.
right, right. Right. And with your swim, like we both said earlier, we use a lot of our swim days sometimes for recovery days. And it depends on how many days you build in to take off during the week. Victor, with yourself and with the teams that you're coaching to get ready for half Ironman and Ironman, do you suggest a complete rest day or do you suggest a light swim or a light walk around the neighborhood on a what would be considered a rest day?
That depends on the athlete, but
Okay.
yes, people over 40 definitely take at least one day completely off. But it also depends on whether their job is physical. Like, for example, with me, I used to be a UPS driver. So it was important to me to take a full day rest without activity because most of the time I'm after my workouts, I'm still going out and doing a lot of physical work. If
Right.
you have an office job and it's pretty sedentary, then my suggestion is a light recovery day where you're just doing a walk or you're doing a light swim.
Mhm.
It's called active recovery.
Right. Right. Right.
Uh, yeah. So I think it does depend on how physical your job is.
I think also too with the swimming or the biking, the rowing, hiking, y'all, if you do a family hike, it doesn't have to be a difficult climb of 20 miles or even 8 miles. An 8 mile hike up a high, difficult level mountain is going to take you all day. Yeah, you can run a marathon in a few hours, but the key is your body's using different muscles to pull, to balance, to stretch. Remember that you can use all of these activities that are fun and incorporate into cross training. Two of the best things to do, obviously, are swimming, getting on a bike, even if it's a stationary bike. If you're in a gym, you can use an elliptical, which takes away the impact, but it also can give you some of that cardio and use your body to push a little bit. If you're gliding faster and you want to accomplish some miles, you can set those intervals. Remember, you have all those options. The rowing is an incredible cross trainer, and I love to do the rowing. We have one at Adam's Gym. Um, Obviously, my upper body, it helps with my swimming, but it keeps me strong. But just you don't realize just how much that works your legs as you're pulling back and forth, the hips, knees, everything, but there's no impact. So these are really good suggestions on cross training, if especially if you want a light workout to a very intense workout. You can do a hit workout with these different types of cross training things too. Use the lighter stuff on days that are going to be lighter workouts where you're not doing intervals, not doing your speed intervals, not doing fartlek training, anything like that. So remember, you've got all these options available and make it fun for y'all. Make it fun. I went on a 6 mile hike with two friends on Sunday because I wanted to do something different. And it was so much fun. And still was out there for a few hours, a couple hours. So it was great. It was great.
Yes. And I think the other thing is that the body's learning to find so many other things to do for fun. So whenever an athlete suffers an injury, they have all these options available to keep their fitness up. Whereas if they're so set on just running or just doing one thing, then when they're not able to do that, they go into a depression or they
Right.
kind of give up. Like I can't do anything because of this injury.
It
Having
changes the whole
options.
mindset. You're right. And you don't have to change your mindset. You really don't. You can do fun things that keep you active. Excuse me, and fit.
Okay, the next thing for runners over 40 is to upgrade their nutrition.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Excuse me.
So
So nutrition, what do you think would be one of the biggest things to add in there?
I think protein, 20 to 30 grams of protein per meal. It should be, I think the formula was 1 gram for every kilogram, or 1 gram. Is it 100 grams per?
Each pound of weight? What
Yeah,
you're okay. So if
average.
you're 150 pounds
It's
and you're
15.
an active 150 pounds, you want to look at getting close to that on your protein.
Yeah,
That
one
can
and a half actually. 1.5 would probably be ideal.
right 1.5. So you got to watch too. You have to watch how your body processes and metabolizes the protein that you're ingesting, because digestion is huge. But you also have to look at the product, because if you're eating a lot of heavy types of protein, your body has to have the time to digest it before you're going to go out and do any kind of workout. You also have to have recovery protein. A lot of our athletes, and I know this for a fact because I do it myself, when you can get those protein shakes, be it a meal replacement or just a recovery of some sort, you want to look at what's in those and how your body metabolizes those. Are you getting your 24? You're getting your 35 grams of protein. In recovery, you want to get that upper level protein of 35 or so grams because you've already put stuff in to aid your workout prior to your workout. But also look at what you're eating for a dinner meal when you've already done all your workouts during the day. You want to get those basic protein grams in along with your healthy carbs, your healthy fats, all of your healthy nutrition. Everything has to work in sync. And when you overload on one and your body can't process, you're going to have some digestion and irritable symptoms that you have to start to assess. So just look at all those. And the omega 3s are important too. You got to look at all magnesium, your iron. When you're an endurance athlete, you have to make sure you keep a check on all those things, but also keep your hydration in conjunction and partnership with your protein and nutrition intakes. If you take a little notebook and monitor what you're doing for a couple of weeks as you're training, you're not just keeping your mileage or your cross training or your strength training or your biking or your swimming or your rowing or anything else you're doing. You're keeping track of your nutrition. Keep track of that with any of these little apps that you can have. But the biggest thing is that you're going to look at how much you're taking in. You'll understand how your body's processing and metabolizing. Remember, you still metabolize at rest. You're also going to look at how you're recovering. Are you rebuilding those muscles? Are you rebuilding those bones so that you can be successful in your next fitness event? Rika?
And don't forget your vitamin D3.
Yes.
Always
Yes.
that. Um, Magnesium, it's very important. And cut down on sugars, processed foods, and alcohol.
Oh,
To the beer. It is. I mean, for some people, it's not an issue. They say, "Well, I don't drink." That's fine. But for a lot of people, have become a cultural thing. To when you're young, it's easy to go out on a run and say, "Hey, let's grab a beer afterward." But as we get older, it wreaks havoc, especially for me.
yeah. Well, it can because your body does, you're not 20 or 30 anymore, right? But what happens to us too, y'all got to remember something. Victor's in his 50s, I'm in my 60s. We've done things through the course of these last 3 decades, 4 decades since our 20s. We're understanding what our body is can adapt to, but also your lifestyle changes. You don't want to act like you're in a fraternity or sorority at a Friday night football game, partying for 4 or 5 hours and forgetting that there's a next day when you want to go out and do a 10-mile training run with friends or a 20-mile bike ride with friends and family, or maybe take your kids and grandkids swimming. So, what you have to realize is those things don't necessarily work as our bodies do age and require different nutrition, hydration, sleep, and our training methods. So, please remember that. You're not in a fraternity anymore at 60 years old. You don't have to do all those things.
Yeah. Yeah. Great point. Great point. And the next one is listen to the pain, and this refers to being able to differentiate between a soreness and maybe a sharp pain, maybe something that could lead into an injury. But definitely, you don't want to work out when you're way too sore, or but if it's sharp pain, you want to stop and get to know exactly where that pain is coming from, because that could be an indication of an injury, and it doesn't take very much.
Right.
Do not muscle through it, because as we get older, because we've done endurance for so long, that it's easy to say, "Oh, I can muscle through this."
Right. And a lot of us have. When we're younger, our bodies sometimes can adapt through it. But please remember, y'all, we're talking about bodies that have been through some things and aged, and things do change. This is just the nature of the beast. They will change. You have menopause, perimenopause, you have what I call the different changes in testosterone and things that happen with men as they age too. You got to remember that always affects your energy, but you don't want those things to take advantage of your bone density and your nutrition and your hydration and everything else. The biggest thing you want to remember is modify things if there's pain. If it's severe, get it checked. I've had both shoulders, um, surgery on both shoulders, rotator cuffs from traumatic, a fall, and then an injury. So I knew immediately there's no way I'm going to be using my arm to swim. Once I recover from those and I can do what I want to do, that's great. But those types of major traumatic impacts can make a huge difference in what the rest of your body does as you get it attended to and heal, because it requires so much energy to do that. Don't run through, don't bully through anything anymore if you don't have to. Slow your pace, walk, don't run. Use something that doesn't have impact, like an elliptical or a stationary bike. Go in the pool. You can walk through the lanes in a pool. You can use a little what I call the little aerobic vest for that's for pool rehab. Use that. You're still getting your fitness. You're still working your cardio, but you're giving your body a chance to heal through something that you've stressed through those muscles. So just remember all that good stuff, y'all. Always remember, take it easy, take it smooth, so that you can get back to doing things you love to do. There we
Yeah,
go.
very good point. The running shoes also in this
Yes, yes.
area, when it comes to pain, pay attention to your shoes and their wearing out, because it can be worse than running barefoot, because once the, because they wear out uneven. So if you're back to the running form, how sometimes we wear out one shoe more than the other, it's the same reason you are not being even. So now you are worsening that imbalance even
Right,
more, because now it doesn't matter how well you are trying to position your body. If your shoes are not landing right, if you don't have the right platform, you're going to create some imbalances. Uh,
right.
that
And
can be-
just a quick comment on that. We talked about shoes in the past in some of our first episodes. Always look at the cushion on the inner sole and outer sole. Always look at how, the stability of it, if it's neutral or if it's built up a little bit stronger for someone who might have arch or pronation or supination issues. Y'all go to a running store that has someone like Fleet Feet. We talked to the gentleman that runs Fleet Feet that can teach you the best shoe for yourself. We've got a whole bunch of information on that. We talked about it before, but just make sure if you start to wear down, your hips and knees are going to start feeling sore. So that's easy. That's an easy fix. Running shoes.
and Fleet Feet is a great place to go. They take care of you. They'll scan your feet. They
Mm-hmm.
tell you what kind of shoe you need, everything. And with that in mind, we move on to our next one, which is periodization.
Mm, yeah.
So having the cycles of, so if you're doing a 16-week or a 20-week training plan, we want to make sure that if you do a pretty hard 2 weeks, you have a third week that's light. I think they need to be more frequent when we get older. When we're younger, you could easily do 3 weeks of hard training for one, especially like when we're doing full Ironmans. That was pretty much our way of periodized was do 3 weeks of hard work and then 1 week of light. I think that as I got older, it's more like 2 weeks of hard and then one light.
Right. And always remember when you get close to your event, you're going to be tapering off on any kind of strength training, any kind of mileage intensity, and any kind of endurance intensity so that your body recovers and builds and is ready for that wonderful day of your event. So just remember that periodization and the way you work on your intervals is key in those weeks of training. And we can help you with all that. We've got all the training programs established to meet your specific needs. So always remember to give us a call when you're ready to do and get ready for your event.
And the great rule of thumb is the 10%, no more than
Right,
10% at every week.
right, right.
Uh, we got two more to go, and it's it. Number 9 is train your mind, set
Mm.
short-term goals.
The biggest thing on that is the body goes along with what the mind and the brain tell it to do. If you're feeling crappy in the morning, but you know you really do want to run, your body's going to get you out there. Take a deep breath and say, I get to go out today. I'm going to tie up my shoes. I'm going to lace them up. I get to do this, not I have to do it. I get the joy of going out for a run or a walk. Take it easy if your body's tired. But if you really want to be out there, set your mind at ease. Take a deep breath and say, you know what? Today's not my day to kill the interval. Today's my day to enjoy more of a recovery type run. Use what your mind is telling you about the rest of your body. That's key. But also, too, find what motivates you. If you've got a friend or family member that's an accountability partner, if you know they're going to be out there at 5 a.m., you better have those shoes tied to be out there at 5 a.m. That person can be your motivation on your lowest motivation days that you don't have it in yourself. Always, always have something that you're working towards. Set a goal for yourself. This week, I'm going to do this. I want to add another mile to my runs or my walks. I want to swim 200 yards more. I want to be ready for next month when I want to swim an extra 500 yards on 4 workouts a week. You've got to really look at your goals and where you want to be and use it within a time frame. But find that mental focus. Always remember, I use this every day. The courage, the miracle is not that I've finished, but that I had the courage to start. Your first step out the door, your first deep breath as you breathe in that morning or evening air, as you move into your training. Remember, it's the courage to start. That's a great mindset to have, and it can develop along your journey. Remember that one. I love that one.
Having a great gratitude practice, it's very, very
Yes.
instrumental, and it helps a lot in the mental part. The other, like the worst mistake that I've made as I got older is competing with my younger self.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We all do. We all do. Why can't I run that 8-minute pace for a marathon? Well, because you're 30 years older.
Exactly.
And
And
we
I
got
think
one more to go. We got one more.
yeah, one more, and that is reflect, track, and adjust, which is kind of part of what we just covered.
Right. Right.
Have a training journal, have somewhere where you're tracking your miles,
Right.
so that when you miss one or two workouts, you can go back and say, well, that's only 2 workouts. Because sometimes we tend to feel like, oh my gosh, I'm so far behind, and it's not true. It's just you missed a couple of workouts, and don't try to make them up. Just
Right.
ease into the back to the training, and you'll be fine.
And every day is a new day, y'all. If you have a training program, which we do with Express Your Mission, with Victor's coaching plans, with our mindset plans, just remember, each day is a new day. It is a gift to you to be able to do something you want to do. If you don't have it in you that day because you're extremely tired, kids were up, you're not feeling good, you got sinus, you got cold, it's another day tomorrow. Let your body have the rest it needs, but remember to keep all of that working. If you track those days, if you have the journal, if you have some kind of little app that you like to use because you like the digital stuff, I love to write mine down. I love to be able to feel the pen in my paper on my notebook. Just remember that those are keys that you can see and look back. I made it to my marathon day. I made it to my Ironman day. I made it to my swim meet. I made it to go cycle 40 miles with my friends. But look at what you did to build up to it, so that when you're ready to do it again, or you have something happen like an injury and a reset, look back at what you did do. Understand that your body's a little bit older, but can you do that again? And how can you modify those schedules? That's where the tracking or the journaling, and then also the gratitude journal that you did it before. Now I would love to do it again. And you're thankful that you can. So that's a big, big key.
Yes, and celebrate those small wins. Celebrate getting to the race. It doesn't matter what your time was. Make sure you're celebrating those small wins.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Right.
going to make it.
Always put those little recaps in there too. And if you want to put, I ran a marathon in 23-degree weather with storm and wind and rain, y'all. If you did it once, you may never do it again, but you did it once and be grateful that you did. Put those in your notes too, y'all, because that's key.
All right, well, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Adele, so much. This was very, very amazing 10 points. We covered a great deal. And we'll keep covering these because these are important things
Yeah.
that we need to remember.
Yeah.
And go ahead and comment on
Yes.
whatever it is that you feel has made the most difference in your running,
Mhm.
whether it's the track workouts and some of the things that you've done different since you've gotten older. Don't forget to comment. It always helps us to hear your feedback. And you guys enjoy, train safe. And if you need any help, you can
Yes.
contact Adele or myself. I'll leave all the contact information on the show notes.
And give us some of your suggestions if you have any ideas or any topics you'd like us to cover. We do have a few of these things. We're going to be a little bit more intensified on our discussions, say the menopause or the testosterone, all the training when you're older, but also the keys to recovery and hydration and nutrition. These are some episodes that we're going to be hitting on a little bit more intentionally for the full episode. So y'all be ready. We got lots of good things coming, especially some of our
Yes.
athletes are going to be coming to talk to us sometime soon too. Can't wait
Yes.
to hear from them.
And next week I'm on the another series. I'm going to Independence or some of the East Coast states. I'll be in Delaware, but I'll be doing the podcast. I'm hoping that I get a little bit of a time. We can do it again and show
Yes.
you some of the stuff that is happening with those. All right, guys. Thank you
Y'all
for
have a
joining.
great week, y'all. Enjoy it. Take care. My friend, I love you. Bye, my
Love you
friend.
too.
Bye,
Mm.
everybody. Take care, y'all.